Do you remember those nights when TV dinners felt like a Friday night treat? When Jell-O molds sat proudly at every family gathering and no one questioned it? Well, today we're taking a trip back to a tastier and maybe a little weirder time. These are 11 foods that used to be wildly popular in America, but somehow disappeared from our plates. Through world wars, economic struggles, and changing health trends, America's tastes have evolved, from canned and preserved convenience foods to fresh, local ingredients. And along the way, we left behind some unforgettable and sometimes questionable dishes. So before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and let's step back into the kitchen of the past. There was something magical about Ambrosia salad. It wasn't just food. It was a feeling, a glimpse of color and sweetness that brightened the dinner tables of America for nearly a century. First seen in the late 1800s, it was simple then. Just slices of orange, a sprinkle of coconut, and a touch of sugar. Back in those days, oranges and coconuts were exotic, a little taste of the tropics for families dreaming beyond their small towns. As the years passed, the recipe evolved. Pineapple, bananas, and later, clouds of whipped cream and marshmallow fluff made their way in. By the time the 1980s rolled around, Ambrosia salad had become a symbol of every Southern holiday gathering and family buffet. Those pastel-colored bowls of fruit, coconut, and cherries sat proudly among casseroles and pies, a sweet reminder that celebration didn't have to be fancy, just made with love. Today, Ambrosia salad feels like a postcard from another time, one filled with potlucks, laughter, and the hum of conversation around the table. We may not see it much anymore, but for anyone who grew up in that era, just the thought of it brings back the taste of home and a smile that lingers. There was a time when tuna casserole wasn't just dinner, it was comfort in a dish. In the 1950s, America was rebuilding, families were growing, and canned food was the future. Shelves lined with Campbell's soup and star-kissed tuna gave homemakers something miraculous, meals that were quick, easy, and hearty. A can of tuna, a can of cream of mushroom soup, some noodles, a handful of peas. That was all it took to make dinner for a family of 5. It was simple, cheap, and filled with the taste of togetherness. Every mom seemed to have her own version. Maybe a little more breadcrumbs, maybe extra cheese on top, and the smell that came from the oven could make the whole house feel alive again. But somewhere along the way, times changed. Fresh ingredients replaced the cans, and the old casserole became a relic of a different rhythm of life. Today, it's a rare sight, maybe still hiding in some church potluck or grandma's Sunday spread. Yet for those who grew up with it, tuna casserole isn't just food. It's the sound of laughter in the kitchen, the glow of a family dinner under warm yellow lights, a reminder that even the simplest meals can taste like home. Pineapple upside-down cake. Even the name feels like something from a happier, simpler time. It first appeared back in the 1920s, when canned pineapple was still a novelty, a sweet, golden symbol of the tropics that most Americans had only dreamed of tasting. Thanks to Jim Dole's Hawaiian Pineapple Company, this sunny fruit suddenly made its way into kitchens across the country. And when a humble homemaker won Dole's recipe contest with her upside-down cake, America fell in love. In the 1950s, no dinner party or church social was complete without one. Glossy pineapple rings, ruby red cherries, and a buttery brown sugar glaze baked right into the top. The moment you flipped it out of the pan was pure magic, the kind of small, joyful moment that defined home cooking in mid-century America. Today, it's a rare sight, maybe found at a potluck or tucked into a Southern cookbook, more nostalgia than trend. But for those who remember, That first sweet bite of warm pineapple and caramelized sugar still feels like sunshine on the tongue, a taste of an America that was just a little more golden. Meatloaf. Just saying the word brings back the scent of home, that slow, savory aroma drifting from the oven, wrapping the whole house in warmth. Though versions of it go back to ancient Rome, it was in mid-20th century America, the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, that meatloaf truly became a household hero. Born from thrift and necessity, it was the meal that could stretch a little meat to feed a big family. During the Depression and the war years, it was survival food made with love: ground beef, breadcrumbs, eggs, and a glossy layer of ketchup baked right on top. Every mom had her own twist, and every kid swore hers was the best. As prosperity returned, meatloaf became more than just dinner. It was tradition. A weeknight comfort, a Sunday staple, a dish that said, "You're home." Today, you'll still find it on diner menus or in a few nostalgic kitchens, but it's no longer the centerpiece it once was. Maybe we've just gotten busier, or maybe we've forgotten the quiet beauty of simple things made from the heart. Either way, one bite of old-fashioned meatloaf, and suddenly you're back there again, sitting at that kitchen table, hearing your mom call, "Dinner's ready." Fondue. Just the word brings back flashes of the 1970s, dimly lit rooms, shag carpets, and friends gathered around a bubbling pot of cheese, each holding a long, silver fork. It wasn't just dinner, it was an experience. Originally a humble Swiss peasant dish, fondue became a sensation in America after World War II, thanks to clever marketing from the Swiss Cheese Union. By the disco decade, it was the height of sophistication. Melting cheese, cubes of bread, maybe a little white wine. It made every dinner party feel like something out of a European postcard. Couples laughed, music played, and for a moment, everyone felt just a bit more cultured. But as trends changed, fondue faded away. The 1980s brought microwaves and TV dinners, and few had time for the slow dance of dipping and sharing. Today, it's mostly a retro novelty, except maybe for chocolate fondue, which somehow never lost its charm. Still, there's something timeless about it. The warmth, the sharing, the way everyone leaned closer around that pot. It wasn't really about the cheese. It was about connection. And maybe that's why fondue will always have a little place in our hearts. Tapioca pudding, popular in the early to mid-1900s. There's something quietly comforting about a bowl of tapioca pudding, that soft, creamy texture, the tiny pearls that seemed to shimmer like little moons under the kitchen light. Back in the early 1900s, it wasn't just dessert, it was almost medicine. Parents served it to children because it was light, gentle, and easy to digest, a kind of wholesome sweetness from simpler times, made from the cassava root and transformed into delicate pearls. Tapioca pudding was the kind of treat that took patience. You'd stir it slowly on the stove, waiting for it to thicken, the aroma of vanilla and milk filling the room. In a way, it was a symbol of care, of mothers who stayed by the stove just long enough to make sure it came out smooth. But as decades passed, people's tastes changed. The world moved faster, diets modernized, and that gentle pudding started to feel old-fashioned. Its quiet simplicity couldn't compete with flashy desserts and instant sweets. Turtle soup, popular from the 1800s to the 1950s. There was a time when turtle soup was a true delicacy, a symbol of luxury served at grand American dinners. Imported turtle meat was rich and flavorful, said to taste like several meats in one, from veal to pork. But as demand grew, turtles were hunted to near extinction, and the dish slowly vanished. To fill the void, cooks created mock turtle soup using calf's head. Even companies like Heinz and Campbell's sold canned versions in the early 1900s. Yet, by the 1950s, convenience foods replaced time-consuming recipes, and turtle soup faded into nostalgia. Today, it lives mostly in old cookbooks and memories, a reminder of a slower, more elegant America, when every meal felt like an occasion. Fruitcake, popular from the Victorian era through the mid-1900s. There was a time when fruitcake wasn't a holiday joke. It was a celebration. Dense, rich, and soaked in rum or brandy, it was the dessert of choice for weddings, Christmas dinners, and special occasions. Back in Victorian times, its long shelf life and the rarity of candied fruits made it a true luxury, the kind of cake you'd bake once and remember all year. But somewhere along the way, fruitcake became the punchline of every holiday gathering. Maybe it was the heaviness, maybe the decades-old re-gifting jokes. No one really knows. Yet, beneath the stigma, fruitcake still carries the warmth of old Christmas mornings, of crowded dinner tables, and of a time when sharing something homemade meant sharing love itself. TV dinners, popular in the 1950s through the 1980s, there was something magical about those silver trays pulled fresh from the oven, steaming compartments of mashed potatoes, green beans, and Salisbury steak. In the 1950s, when television sets began glowing in living rooms across America, dinner moved from the kitchen table to the TV stand. Families gathered not around conversation, but around the latest episode flickering in black and white. The TV dinner wasn't just food, it was a symbol of modern life, of convenience, of a new rhythm where time could finally be saved for leisure. But as the decades passed, the magic cooled. Microwaves made meals faster, yet somehow emptier. Nutrition took a back seat, and the charm of that foil-covered simplicity faded. Still, for many, the memory of those dinners, eaten cross-legged on the floor with a favorite show playing, tastes a lot like childhood itself. Sloppy Joes, popular from the 1930s through the 1970s, there was a time when the smell of simmering ground beef and tangy tomato sauce drifting from a kitchen meant one thing. Sloppy Joes were on the menu. Born sometime around the 1930s, this messy, saucy sandwich became a Depression-era favorite, turning a little meat and a lot of flavor into a family dinner that could feed everyone around the table. Served on soft hamburger buns, it wasn't fancy, but it didn't have to be. The joy was in the simplicity, and maybe in the way kids couldn't quite eat it without getting sauce on their hands, or their faces. It was the taste of home, of paper lunch trays and weeknight dinners. Today, the Sloppy Joe has slipped out of the spotlight, replaced by burgers and drive-through meals that are easier to hold, but somehow less human. Still, one bite of that sweet, savory mix, and it's like stepping back into a time when dinner was messy, but life felt wonderfully simple. Gelatin salads, popular in the 1950s. Gelatin salads, those shimmering towers of color that once sat proudly on every American dinner table. Imagine a crystal-clear mold filled with diced vegetables, shrimp, or even bits of ham, quivering gently under the kitchen light. It looked beautiful, in a strange, retro way, like art you could eat. Back in the 1950s, this was sophistication. Housewives poured Jell-O into fancy molds, showing off their creativity and efficiency. It was the age of tidy meals and modern homemaking, where even leftovers could be transformed into something new. And during wartime scarcity, gelatin was practical too. It stretched food and kept waste low. But, truth be told, few people ever loved eating them. The mix of meat and wobbly jelly wasn't exactly a crowd favorite. Eventually, as tastes evolved toward fresh and simple dishes, the gelatin salad quietly vanished from the table, leaving behind only the memory of its glossy, wiggling perfection. Still, for anyone who grew up seeing one sparkle at a family picnic or holiday dinner, that image never quite fades. So, Which of these classic dishes brings back the strongest memories for you? Maybe it's something your grandma used to make, or a taste you haven't found in decades. Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And if you enjoy reliving these warm, nostalgic moments from America's past, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more journeys back in time.